Good evening, welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. As the long-awaited West Kowloon Cultural District lumbers to its opening in 2017, the past year saw an increase in arts activities. Producer Sylvia Yu talked with the impresarios behind the massive arts project, as well as established and emerging artistic talents.
Free Space Fest held last December. It's one of dozens of arts events slated to be held on the site of the future West Kowloon Cultural District, set to start opening some venues in 2017. The government has allocated $24 billion for 17 arts and culture venues on 40 hectares.
Free Space itself was really saying it's relevant to people who may not, to this point, have ever thought that West Kowloon had any significance for them.
WKCD spent $6 million on Free Space. Admission was free. It attracted 30,000 people on the first day, 5,000 the next day, despite the rain.
The audiences in Hong Kong is probably amongst the most sophisticated in the region. But in terms of numbers, on average, a Hong Kong citizen go to 0.47 performances each year. There's certainly room to make them go more often.
We're really interested in trying to build audiences, build connections with the local community, to do something for Hong Kong that extends boundaries.
The West Kowloon Cultural District was first mooted in 1997. It's been through 1 tender and 3 public consultations. Concepts included Norman Foster's iconic canopy. All were rejected by legislators and public opinion, mainly over fears major property developers among the bidders might have undue influence on Hong Kong's cultural scene. In 2008, LegCo finally approved $21.6 billion for the hub. The amount has grown to $24 billion with investments, but the government says the WKCD needs at least $8 billion more due to inflation. There are no plans, though, to approve more funds. The West Kowloon Cultural District Authority has been formed to run the hub. It's been through 1 executive director and 1 CEO before the current head, Michael Lynch. Construction of WKCD started mid-2013 on a 20-year timeline.
Clearly will be issues down the track, building the funding sources over the longer term. It's also important for us is to build other support, to build philanthropic support, to build commercial sponsorship in the long-term development of the space. Once the projects are built, we will have product and we will have a sustainable way of taking it forward. By sort of 2017, 2018, you'll start to see the audience and the arts organisations being able to use it for their activities.
But Hong Boy, a breakdancer, thinks the WKCD will have no place for his art form.
Breaking has been in Hong Kong for about 11-12 years. Many places in Hong Kong are not supportive of this. And the government is really not supportive of this, so it is difficult. There's no support for organizing events, competitions, and no practice venues.
Hong Boy was to perform at the Free Space Fest, but was rained out. He says that's 6 months of work down the drain.
Very disappointed because we rarely have such a large space to let so many people experience this culture.
We did a hip-hop venture. We invested quite a lot in developing parkour as a young people's area of interest.
Parkour is the art of jumping, climbing, running to traverse a city in the fastest, most efficient manner.
It's quite reasonable that we should find ways of connecting some of the more experimental, the more crazy groups that operate within a city. You want to retain relevance for West Kowloon for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
In this fiscal year, the government spent $3.3 billion on arts and culture, including about 81 performances, 22 exhibitions, and 22 films, nearly every week in Hong Kong.
We really haven't had any new arts facilities, new venues for almost 10 years. And the demand is huge.
a demand that's expected to be met by the West Kowloon Cultural District. Meanwhile,
our strength is in the very rich mix of activities we offer year-round, such as Cantonese opera, chamber music, drama in different languages. We have almost everything here. Arts activities in Hong Kong rely a lot on the government, and most arts groups can only recruit a fraction of their income from arts activities. That's a combination of ticket prices being cheap and also the market not being big.
The Yatpo Singers mixes drama, Cantonese opera, and folk songs into their a cappella medleys.
A combination of the Hong Kong local style and also the traditional Chinese style that would be very attractive for not only people in Hong Kong but internationally.
Patrick Chu, choir conductor and artistic director, formed the group in 2008 with government funding to hire 4 full-time singers and 1 staff. Last year, the government committed $3 million to cover 2 years of the Yatpo's expenses if the group raises $1.5 million. Last year, the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority paid Yatpo to perform at the Bamboo Theatre, which is set up annually for 1 month at Lunar New Year. Most of Yatpo's other shows rely on government grants or private donors.
If we want to make it long-lasting, we need to explore new funding sources. We hope the private sectors would support art more. We want to explore how Chinese music can combine and work with this so-called Western art.
Like this.
In our performance, we have very energetic postures or energetic feelings, make them feel like, oh, this is Hong Kong's style.
Sounds in Hong Kong like the MTR sound or the street, very vibrant.
Can you give us an example of that right now?
26-year-old Keith Wong gave up a government job to join the Yatpo Singers.
One of the major things we have to do is gain more audience. So the older generation, Cantonese opera is their pop song. So one of the things that we can do is to try to include this element into the music so we can gain more audience.
Professor Dorothy Ng notes the Bamboo Theatre has helped revive audience interest in Cantonese opera.
The artists itself, they are getting agents, and those young people training are not systematic enough and good enough to brush up the whole performance. Second one is lack of the education awareness among the young people.
The Bamboo Theatre will be replaced by the permanent Shichu Center when the West Kowloon venues start opening in 2017.
The Shichu Theatre is not a place only for Shichu. I see opportunities for the next generation or our generation of artists to perform new genre.
This collection of more than 100 works of architecture will be included among visual arts displays in the largest of West Kowloon venues, the M+.
It's currently on display here in Tai Kwu Shing. The $5 billion M+ building will open in the fall of 2017.
It will include a learning center, a film area, and a public roof terrace that overlooks the Victoria Harbour.
We're a global museum, just like the Museum of Modern Art in New York, but looking at the world from a Hong Kong perspective. So the core of our collection will be Hong Kong artists, mainland Chinese artists, Asian artists.
Like Stanley Wong, the Hong Kong-born photographer, graphic designer, and visual artist has donated 36 photos from his Lanway or Rotten End series to the M+.
It's really looking at these aborted buildings where suddenly someone starts building something and then the money disappears and there is this skeleton standing there, which also says something about both, I think, culture and economy, but also architecture.
Over 7 years, using his own money, Stanley captured 100 images of unfinished buildings in 12 Asian cities.
This building is in Guangzhou.
Stanley says the chief foreman killed himself over corruption charges.
One day he jumped down from this building, so it's being very politically sensitive. This is very sad. Everyone tell me this is more like gravestone. Common space.
Stanley's artist persona is another mountain man.
Stanley Wong is really, to me, almost a quintessential Hong Kong artist. And he also is very exemplary because he is one of these typical Hong Kong persons who so easily move between different roles in the field of visual culture.
He took photos of locals posing at the abandoned buildings.
Extremely dangerous. Those buildings, no windows, no stairwells. If I'm allowed, I will bring people inside here to stage there, talking particular issues of that city, about corruption, about people's relation.
Stanley was a creative director for several advertising agencies before forming his own design production firm in 2002.
More than 10 years ago, just a few artists, their artwork is more along social issues. But now I can see more. The path of the whole Hong Kong art scene is changing.
Stanley has won more than 500 local and international awards for his art and advertising work. Among Stanley's best-known works is this collection of design and installation art pieces called Red, White, Blue.
I really want to keep reminding people our positive energy for Hong Kong, be united, be friendly, be together.
He says he'll donate more of his visual arts to M+.
When this cultural hub being developed, local Hong Kong people will be the one being benefited. Because our daily life now is all about money, really hardcore. That kind of cultural nurturing our mind, our daily life, to change the city in a better way.
After the break, world-class music for underprivileged kids in Hong Kong. Musica's Fest.
Young people can experience playing with excellent foreign players.
Drama for kids from 4 years old.
It's very crucial that young people go to the theatre to see live entertainment.
And that's really great if you start young because you get more confident.
And nurturing music lovers to be arts administrators.
Put everything together so that we have a truly enriched cultural life.
Stay with us.